Welcome back. You're watching NTV Tonight. Education Under Test is what we are calling this particular show, in which we are giving a 360-degree view into the state of education in the country. And my panelists are already here. Three of them are on my immediate left is Dr. Thaddeus Ruga. Dr. Thaddeus is a senior lecturer at Kenyatta University. He also is an education researcher. Good afternoon, Dr. Good evening, Dr.
Good evening.
Next to him is the Honorable Lilian Gogo, the Member of Parliament for Angwe constituency. Dr. Gogo is also a member of the Budget and Appropriations Committee of the National Assembly, and also she sits in the Public Investments Committee, Social Services, Administration and Agriculture. Good evening, Mheshimiwa.
Good evening.
And last but not least, we have Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, the Executive Director of Usawa Agenda. This is a consummate educationist. Good evening, Dr.
Good evening.
We'll be getting into this discussion with the three panelists. We'll be speaking about stability of these competency-based education. We'll also be speaking about the inequities that we've seen in the stories. But before that, I cross over to my colleague Helen Aura, who is also having another panel, because like we said, we are giving this a 360-degree view so that you understand how exactly the state of education in the country is. Helen.
Right, as you said it, Ibrahim, I'm joined by parents who are critical stakeholders in this conversation, as their life and future for their learners, or rather their children, hangs in the balance. On my right-hand side is Jared Juma, who is a parent, followed by Anne Wanyoeke, who is also a parent, as well as Jasso Boru, to Anne's right-hand side, who is also the Nairobi County Parents Chairman Association. I'm also joined by Delvin Ochieng, and I'm also joined by Paul Otieno. These are all parents, have children in grade 9, grade 10 specifically, as well as even in the lower grade. And we'll delve further into this conversation just to find out what are some of the key issues as parents they have experienced while in this new transition to CBE, as well as what are some of the challenges that they've faced in this curriculum. Back to you, Ibrahim.
Well, thank you, Helen. And right now, I get into this conversation. I'll start with you, Dr. Lilian Gogo. Last week, I was in Naivasha, and you were there for the legislative retreat. Mm-hmm. And one of the people who appeared before you was the Cabinet Secretary for Education. Members of Parliament had lots of questions about the state, especially of CBE, matters, funding of education. And I'll start by asking, what is your assessment of the state of education in light of now having grade 10s in senior school?
Thank you very much. Allow me first, before I talk about the state of education, to just thank our teachers who've made us to be who we are under whatever circumstances. And I also want to thank the stakeholders in the entire education system for going out of their way to make the next generation of Kenyan workers, Kenyan servicemen and women. So that is something that we cannot downplay. And in the retreat that we had for last week, of course the CS education was there, and as people's representative, we interrogated a number of areas, a number of missing links, areas to do with the implementation, policy areas. And it was a normal conversation. It was just a normal, responsive conversation, so that even when we are at the points at which we serve, then we are able even to explain to the common man, the local man at the grassroots, what is happening nationally. It was also a moment for legislators also to air their experiences, what they see, what they go through, what is in the ground. Yeah.
And the level of engagement that we saw from members of parliament there, the questions that were coming indeed indicate that this is a sector that is so important, but a sector that have lots of questions. That's why I asked, what is your assessment of this sector so far?
Education sector generally is on a transition point. We are moving from one education system to another that is never been done in Kenya. We've never had CBC or CBE, and it is just coming in. It's a child that is being born and is it's crawling, and the child goes to walking, and the child goes to going to school. So we have a point where there is transition to senior secondary school. There were issues when they were joining junior secondary school, and then we also have more issues when they are going to senior secondary school. And given that this is a position from which we have not lived, we get one or two hiccups here and there. But I should think that there is the perceived badness and that there is the actual badness. There is the effort that the government is making to make sure that no single-most government would not want to have a good education system that is well funded for its citizenry and for its learners and for the future of the nation. So we could probably just have hiccups here and there out of inexperience. We have not experienced this system. We've not well assessed its shortfalls,
right,
because we've not gone through the long haul of it. We've not gone to the tail end of it.
All right.
Yes.
Fair enough. Dr. Thaddeus, perceived reality, actual reality. You are an education researcher, senior lecturer at Kenyatta University. What is your assessment of where we are right now with our education sector?
Thank you, Ibrahim. Let me also join my MP in thanking stakeholders in the education sector for the efforts they have made so far. We cannot take it for granted that the teachers have done their best, the education officials in the field have done their best, the government is doing its bit. But now, if you ask me, where is the education? It's in a crisis.
All right.
It's a crisis. And the crisis is just like the MP said, everybody is struggling to understand it. The teachers are struggling to understand it. The officials are trying to understand it. It has been mentioned that it's a new thing. And that is in itself is a crisis. Now, if you move on to the equity implications that I know Manyasa specializes in, the efficiency issues, it needs to be unruffled.
It needs to be unraveled.
Yeah.
Manyasa, we have seen stories here. One about parents who are now transferring their learners from the CBE system to international systems. And before we started this interview, I asked you about this and you said, it is not a wise move. Why so?
Thank you for having me, Ibrahim. Before I comment on that, please allow me to say something about the inexperience that we have in implementing CBE. If we are accepted that airplane makers would have several of them crash because they are experimenting with a new model, how many lives would we lose? So there is no curriculum that has been implemented in Kenya that went through a more comprehensive process of introduction than this CBE. I was in primary school when 844 was introduced. It was instant. I don't think it had as much hiccups as we are having now. We're having hiccups in CBE implementation because we failed to plan, and if you fail to plan, you have planned to fail. I have been in these studios many times and said, we have kept on kicking down the can, down the hill. We are this close to the bottom of the hill, so we have nowhere else to kick the can. And I think it is important that all the stakeholders wake up right now and salvage these children, especially those children in grade 10 now. They have had very nasty experience at every transition. And I had hoped that their experience transiting to senior school will be something that can help them at least form good memories of their going through education. We are still at the same point where at every point is a crisis, at every point it is a crisis. And I think that we have a responsibility as the adults to do something differently and salvage these children.
Why, before you go to the question, why do we seem to be responding to a crisis every time? Yet this is something we can foresee. We could foresee the transition of grade 9 to 10. We could foresee earlier transition to a junior school. Why do we find ourselves stuck in crisis every time?
Because we rushed the implementation. The curriculum is good. The way some parents have commented here, it is actually good. I have children in grade 2 and grade 4. I have children in this system. And I have not taken the option of taking them to the international curriculum because I know why. And I think that the curriculum is good as designed. But when it was designed as a curriculum that will be more costly than the 8441 that we had.
Sure.
Yeah? And there's no problem with it being more costly. Good things don't come cheap. The problem is that by the time we started to implement, we had no costed implementation plan. If you have no costed implementation plan, which means you don't know what resources you require at what level, then every new level is a shock. And that is basically what we're going through right now. Every new level is a shock. We don't know what we need at that point because we did not have a structured implementation plan. Those are now pieces of history. Let's confront what we face now. Very many parents are making what is at a private level a rational decision to move their children to the international systems, to say they have lost faith in this litany of crises and they want to move their children to stable.
Basically, they're looking for stability.
Systems. Yes. But I want to challenge them and tell them, you know, how many are going to afford to do that? They're going to be a small minority. Those children that we are isolating from the rest will become expatriates in their own country later on when they have finished learning in the international system. Because those who are living in this failing system will remain the majority, will rule this country, and those well-educated in the international system will work for them or work elsewhere. So let us stay and make this system work. We have an obligation as a society, and we have a duty to make sure that every child is getting their rightful benefit from a good quality education. And those running away are the ones with the ability to contribute to improving. So please don't run away, it won't help.
Lillian, questions will come to you as a decision maker. You are in this 13th parliament, you were in the previous parliament as well. Throughout the conceptualization of CBC, crossover to CBE, to how it's being implemented right now, as a decision maker, you're one of the people who Kenyans will expect explanations and answers from. Even when you go back to your constituency, of course, they want to understand what is it with this system. Why do we find ourselves where Manyasa is explaining?
Thank you very much. Allow me to disengage myself from negativity. I invoke positive energy in me, and I would want anything around and about me also to take up the same. I'm Kenyan, and I don't see any crisis. I would still stand my ground that there is an effort. There is an effort to give the best education to the Kenyan child. And be it as it may, we are transitioning. We are in a state of transition. We are in a state where, even if it is that one going to grade 10, and from the point where the government stands, funding has even increased. Funding, budgetary allocation to the education sector has actually increased by about 50 billion, up to about 700 billion. And this is meant to cater for the transition, the changes in the education system, to hire more teachers, to have probably equipment bought, to have infrastructure developed. And there is no, I personally don't see a crisis. We are implementing a system as it continues. There are complaints that probably teachers are not well versed with the current curriculum. The government has gone out of its way to train teachers through the retooling process. Teachers have, last year, I think it started from last year, April, then some teachers, more teachers were trained. There was April, then others in August, and others in December, when the schools are closed, because the teachers can also not be trained and the schools are running. So it can only be done during school holidays.
The retooling is what you're speaking about.
Yeah, the retooling.
It took about 1 week for teachers to, they were taken through a 1 week crash course.
Yes, yes.
To be able or be ready for learners of grade 10 who they will be teaching for an entire year. So that level of preparedness is what Kenyans are concerned about. But before you proceed, because we have parents also following this discussion on the other side of the studio, it is important that we get their quick reaction so that by the time we come back to you and Ruga and Manyasa, we're able to have a wholesome conversation about where we are. Helen.
Ibrahim, rightfully, as you said it, the parents are here and they're ready to speak. Just following the conversation in studio, parents, we had Rangwe MP, Lillian, saying this curriculum, there is no crisis and it's working. We also had Dr. Thaddeus saying so much so that this new curriculum is in shambles and the education sector in Kenya is not headed towards the right direction. As parents, this new curriculum, is it working for you? And is it working for your child so far? Anne?
Well, I'm going to say that.
Kindly hold it.
Hello, sorry. Well, for me, I'm supporting the curriculum because it's like engaging our children at the early stage of what they want. It is also taking care of their talents. Once you in grade 12, you're ready for the market. Maybe.
Yes, Helen, allow me to expound on what she has said. Unlike the old system, competency-based system affords the learners an opportunity to pursue their studies in their line of competence. Therefore, it is our duty and obligation as parents to work with these learners throughout the journey for us to be able to guide them. By the time they reach grade 9, when they are required to choose their schools and their pathways. Like right now, I'm a parent of grade 9. And in a month or so, grade 9 learners are expected to choose their schools and their pathways. And I know my daughter is a STEM student. Why? Because we work together. So we urge parents to walk through this journey with their children so as to identify their areas of strength and weaknesses. So as opposed to the old system, this new system is very good because this is the way to produce the best engineer. This is the way to produce the best learner, the best lawyer. This is the way to produce the best doctors because learners are afforded an opportunity to pursue their careers in their area of interest. And at this point, I would like to laud the effort of the government because the government's support for the success of this system is evident from the way they are providing infrastructure, from the way they are training the teachers to handle this, from the way, their provision of the classrooms and funding and all that, though there are few gaps here and there.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jaso, for that point. We'll get back to, you've mentioned actually key points that we'll delve further into. Juma, is this new curriculum working for you and for your child?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me tonight. And from the surface, one would think the curriculum is working because, we have not had it before. And we have not rolled out its first graduates. So to that extent, you would not fault it. However, in terms of implementation, there are sufficient gaps that have emerged. The schools probably were not, the classrooms were not sufficiently expanded to enable the new group that was one class that is ahead of the previous classes to be retained in what used to be called the primary schools. Secondly, the teacher preparedness or the tutor preparedness was not sufficient. You realize that what you call the junior secondary school is domiciled in what was primary school. The facilities that are expected is like if it is the old system, they would be going to secondary school. They would have slightly more upgraded laboratories, which were not afforded down here. Types of books were not also not provided as one would have preferred in situations where when government is providing books for a new curriculum, the books could have been provided earlier. So to that extent, there is a challenge. But it is a system that is not yet fully rolled. So to fault it now would be slightly premature, though there are red flags, I would say so.
Speaking of red flags, what are some of the challenges as parents you have faced when it comes to the implementation of this curriculum, especially as now most of you here have children who've gone to grade 10. Let me start with you, Anne. Your child has recently been enrolled into grade 10. What are some of the challenges you faced?
The challenges that we experience when rolling our children to grade 10, it's like when we were downloading the school, the form was not equipping us with everything that we needed. So at some point, we would go out there to the market, buy things that are needed for your child. And when you take the child to school, the school would insist that you have to buy from the school, which is a challenge because sometimes you are forced to go back with things that you had already bought for your kid, and now you've been forced to take them back home.
Paul, is that also a challenge that you've also gone through as a grade 10 parent?
Yeah. Thank you, first of all, for welcoming me here in the studio. And actually what Anne is saying is very much true because when we are enrolling our kids to school, you are told that some of the things that some of these things you have to buy them from the school. So it was challenging. I witnessed parents even going back with some items that they had bought because the school was saying that those items are not the standard. Are not the standard from the school.
So the school is what has the standard material, or what is it that you were told exactly?
Actually, they said that they preferred the parents to buy them from the school.
And you took, Delvin, you took your daughter to St. George's recently as well, grade 10.
Yes.
Tell us your experience.
Personally, I would like to thank you for this opportunity. I had a seamless time. Now, generally, what Anne has said is that we download the admission form online, the one that is general for all schools. But it was now the initiative of the parent to go ahead to the school to inquire, is this, these are the requirements, are they necessary, are they all of them here? Then the school will tell you or advise you that what we have here is just the standard for all schools. But now as St. George's, they have these particular things that they need for us to still buy. So we had to go a step further as parents to acquire these things that are necessary for each particular school. So personally, I don't feel like that was a challenge per se. It was just a means of us ensuring that our learners in those schools are well equipped to actually be accommodated in that school. And also for purposes of uniformity, I understand that each school required the learners to have some particular things. Like for St. George's, my child herself is in Jupiter House. If I had gone ahead and bought things that are for another house and she would have landed in Jupiter, her color was actually purple and I would have bought green. Of course, they wouldn't have accepted me to go ahead with the green things. So I understand this. The process itself was just seamless. But for parents, our major pain point was the financial burden to actually ensure that we have each and everything that the learner requires.
Okay, let's take a short break here on NTV Tonight. We'll be back with this conversation where parents are actually delving more to speak about what are some of the challenges they are facing in terms of this transition, and even what are some of the pros that they have seen with this transition.
Welcome back. You're watching NTV Tonight on this special edition where we are taking a look into the state of education in a production that we are calling Education Under Test. And before we took a break, we listened to the parents on the other side of the studio speak about the current system and the state of education. And I had one parent say it is premature to fault the CBE system right now. However, I would give examples as to why parents would be concerned or stakeholders would be concerned, Mheshimiwa, because I cut you short before we went to the parents so that you finish on your point. 1, weeks into grade 10 learners reporting to school, in some schools, they've not started learning. Secondly, there is a shortage of books. I remember even CS Ogamba speaking about a debt owed to publishers as the reason as to why there were no books in school. All this, remember, there is also a funding crisis. Monies were disbursed to schools, but it was not immediately clear whether the money that was disbursed also was to cater for grade 10. That is why that parent who spoke said there is already a lot of red flags to this particular system. How do you respond to this?
Thank you very much. I would still maintain my position that schools should be given an opportunity for them to be managed appropriately by the technical persons who are trained to handle the education sector. The challenge that we have is that we know everything. We just know everything. We know this money has come and this one, is it now for grade 10? When I have money in my pocket, I am both hungry and I cannot see. Which one do I handle first?
All of them are important.
All of them are important. As it were, if there is money that was disbursed to the schools, and I'm glad you have said some schools. So it is not absolute. Learning is not going on in some, but there is chance probability that is going to go on. This is where we are stuck. We are working on it. Then we move on. This is what I want to put forward, is that let us give this system a chance. Let us be patient. Where are we hurrying? Why are we bringing negative energy to our learning system, politicizing our learning system? And I'm glad that the parents who are at the implementation level are appreciating the system. The ones who have come to studio, they are saying that if there was this, that probably seemed to have shown that some teachers are manipulating the uniforms. I've come to learn to understand. Because if I were to just go and buy, I would have bought the wrong thing. So there are some things which we must do at the school point. When it comes to books, there is always continuous production of books with improvement of information, with the improvement of what needs to be added. So as we move on, then we continue. If we owe the publishers, we must understand that funding by governments exists in perpetuity. It is something that is continuous. It is something that is endless. Government sources for funding also varies. When they get this, they disburse it. When Parliament appropriates money, it is disbursed. So it is not like we have large chunks of money, even in the collection of revenue. It is progressive.
Mheshimiwa, I want to cut you short and ask, because you are defending this system. Indeed, I would understand that, like the parent said, it's too early to judge it. However, are you saying, because you're in that room in Naivasha, you saw the kind of interest that the education subject had from members of parliament, their hands risen by members of parliament to ask critical questions about this, that it was all in vain? Because if it were working, then those questions would not have been in the numbers that we saw in Naivasha.
For all intents and purposes, the questions that were being asked by parliamentarians was not an indication that the system is not working. It was an indication and intent to have the system improved.
Fair enough.
To have the system improved. One of the things that was raised, the matters that was raised, was that one school has 1,000 students with 40 teachers. Another school has 200 students with more teachers. You see what I mean? These were the concerns that when it comes to placement of these learners, that should have been done in a better manner.
In a better manner.
In a better manner.
Thank you very much. Thaddeus, you have listened to the parents speak downstairs. You've also listened to the argument by Mheshimiwa Lilian Gogo. But you said that this sector is in crisis, not in shambles. You said it is in crisis. Please tell us, and we've seen also the inequities that we have seen through the stories that we're having, leave alone parents and learners who are going to, by all means, C1, C2 levels of schools. Let's look at C4, especially in the remotest parts of this country. Are they fairly being attended to in matters of education?
Thank you, Ibrahim. In the C4 schools, the schools that used to be called day schools, turnout, first of all, turnout of the grade 10 is very low. Those are the schools that you are reporting have received 2 students. Those are the C4 schools. And the question we need to be asking ourselves, why are students shunning these schools? It's not that they did not get proper location. Their locations were proper. But at some stage, the principals of the other schools were allowed to admit, and they still had space. You remember that they have some classes that are not being occupied. So they have some space. So students moved to these schools with better facilities, and because they were told, go to schools, they were not told, go to the schools that admitted you. Go to school. So where do you take your child? To the best school. So they went to the best schools. So now a school has 2,000, or when it was supposed to have 900, and the C4 has no students. So what is the fate of the C4? The fate of the C4 is the proposed closure or merger. But that is a time bomb. If you close these schools and the enrollments keep on growing in the C1 and 2 schools, what will happen to the C1 and 2 schools? They will bulge, and they will need the same schools. Another thing that I call crisis is a looming funding issue. At the moment, these students are waiting to receive payments from the government. But there is also the parental contribution. And the parental contribution in the boarding schools, which are the C1 and 2, are higher than the day schools.
That's true.
They are supposed to be free in day schools. And poor parents have taken their children to the C1 and the C2. How will they cope with the boarding fee?
Good question you're posing here. And the avoidance of C4s by parents and learners across the country, does it point out to a problem with the placement system that we had? Or is it a problem with the quality of education being offered there? Manyasa?
First, there is every child has a right to a good quality education. We have schools in this country that are growth centers. Children go there to grow. You have seen after KCSE results were released, we have seen parents evicting some head teachers that this school has been producing Ds only. Those are growth centers, because when you go to Form 4 and get an E, you qualify for an artisan course which you already qualified in class 8. So what have you been doing for the 4 years? You've lost time and money. And you have actually gone there to kill your self-esteem as a person. Because when a young person leaves Form 4 and you tell them, go attend training with the class 8, you kill their self-esteem. So those schools, parents know them. Parents are not keen on taking their children there. Learners know them. There were over 3,000 schools that were never selected by any learner when they was choosing schools. So when the allocation came and we sent learners there, and they had never chosen them in the first place, they tried their best to get out. But there's another issue that we need to confront. There are a lot of these grade 10 learners that we're talking about and assuming have crowded in other schools that have actually not gone to school.
The government is giving a completely different report.
Yeah,
I listened to CS Ogamba.
Where I come from, they say if you hide illness, morning shall reveal. So these kids are in the community. We are never going to hide them anywhere.
Are you actually saying that we have not had 100%?
We have a lot of children at home. And the reason is this. A populist decision was made last year to say that KCSE certificates will be picked from the Ministry of Education offices in the counties. The consequence of that, which was not anticipated, is that no head teacher is going to allow a learner with a fee balance in the school, because once that learner sits the exam, that fee is not collectible. And this learner is going to use resources in school to be there. So who foots that bill? And if you ask the question for a parent with a Form 4 child this year, would you rather your child is in school, they learn, they pass exams, but they have their certificates, stay in school so they come and work and get money to collect it, or that they stay out of school for the whole year and come to sit KCSE and fail and collect their failed certificate from the sub-county's or director's office? Because rationally, there's no principle is going to allow children with a balance. I sit on a board of a school. One of the problems we've had in the past is that parents will accumulate fee balance for 3 years and move their child to register KCSE in another school. Right. And the question you are asking is, okay, we've been talking to them in the community and saying, please, this is your school, don't kill it. Because when you do this and leave behind these balances, who are you leaving this balance for? Right. Because your child was in this school and now you have shifted them. When you say that you can't hold the certificate, and I know there was a problem, there were principals wrongfully holding certificates over fictitious claims. Yeah. You lost books, you did this. Those could be sorted out separately. But understand that the school needs resources to function.
All right. Because you have raised a very important thing. Waziri Ogamba, while speaking to parliamentarians last week, cited this. This is his presentation, that as at 22nd January 2026, transition stood at 92% across the country, and that they were projecting it would go to 98, if not 100% by this week. You're saying that children are within the society. Now, this is where we bring you, the viewer, using our social media handles at NTV Kenya across all social platforms. Tell us, do you know of learners who were to transition to grade 10 who have not yet transitioned? Because what you tell us will be compared to what the government said, because Waziri went ahead to break down per region on how the percentage of the learners that had transitioned. However, the issue of funding, Mheshimiwa, and this will make very brief before we take another break and look at another story. The issue of funding is still a very critical issue. On the 6th of January, I spoke to PS Basic Education, Julius Bitok, on a phone conversation that is recorded, which you can play on NTV. And I asked a simple question. The money that had been disbursed, what was it for? One, was it to pay for debts for last year? Secondly, was it to cater for grade 10 who had not reported to school at that particular time? Because we broke down the amount disbursed, 45 billion, close to 45 billion, and it went to the learners who are in Form 3 and 4 now, and those in junior school. Grade 10 had not been accommodated. But the striking thing that the PS told me on phone, it is on record, is that that money, all the money that Parliament had appropriated, had been disbursed. So that raises a concern of, do we have to wait up until we have another supplementary budget to send some more money to schools, or what happens in this case?
Allow me to say that, and I'll just go back to it. When you have money and you have a situation to handle, you will use that money, because monies go to the schools, one, for management, and then of the school, of the institution, and then there is for infrastructure development. Monies for infrastructure development are placed on a different account. The rest of the monies are for management that is done by the boards of management of the school. If government brings me money, and the issue here was that what the heads of schools and the board did not understand is that the money that went there, was it for Form 4s and Form 3s, and then now the grade 10s were left out? When I talked to one of the principals of the schools in my constituency, she told me one of our national schools, Asumbi National Schools, is that for the first time, they were better placed because they had monies. As soon as the grade 10s reported, the monies that had been disbursed was still there. and it is the board to decide on what to do with that money. And that money can be either be allocated to grade 10s, Form 3s and Form 4s. It was not specific that now put away the grade 10s. We are going to give more money. And if all the monies that were given for that particular time is exhausted, we have supplementary budgets.
Manyasa wants to counter, but I would also counter in terms of...
Capitation is per child.
Per child?
So there's no school that was sent amount as a lump sum. You are sent based on how many learners do you have. So the grade 10s were not in school. There was no teacher with a number of grade 10s to be in that school. So I take it that there's no money sent for grade 10 as by the time the money was disbursed. Because capitation by policy, unless something has changed that I don't know, is per child.
No, let me say.
Please proceed.
Shortly before I came here, I also had a chance to call a principal, and he said the monies were sent, and the money that was sent for the grade 10 were the monies, they used statistics of the former Form 4.
Absolutely.
So if they used, but then there is still a challenge. If they used the statistics of the Form 4 that left, a school that had 900 students, and this year has 900 or 1,800, what about the difference in numbers? And a school that last year had 100 students and as a day school, and today has 10 students, what happens? So in other words, through using previous statistics, we have created imbalance in the sense that some schools have got more and some have got less.
It is also still an imbalance from my understanding, because government is supposed to disburse capitation 50% term 1, 30% term 2, 20% term 3. So by stating that the monies that were disbursed at the beginning of this term was to cater for grade 10, then it means government sent way less than the required 50% per learner. That's why the question on funding comes, and this is because you sit in the Budget and Appropriations Committee. We'll be coming to you to, of course, discuss this further. But right now, we have a story on the competency-based education. And as the competency-based education continues to take root across the country amid limited resources, schools are delivering practical learning by creatively using materials found within the learner's immediate environment. And as our reporter Mashari Mbogwa now explains, this transformation has turned into a powerful tool for discovery and expression by learners as they build their skills.
At Nandi Primary School in Kapsabet town, we join Joseph Kitur, the head teacher, as he takes his learners through the music lesson. With CBE, such art-based subjects have become a strong foundation for this innovation. Classrooms have shifted away from the usual rigid chalk and talking routines to hands-on and more learner-centered experiences.
Away from time-based mastering skills where theory was the order of the day, I must practically say that learners are now getting involved on the skills practically.
In today's music lesson, learners had made drums. These and instruments such as shakers and string instruments generally have seen students creatively use jerry cans, tins, timber, wires and bottle tops to make them.
You can see we have some improvised materials like the drums. You have the class, what do we call this? Yes. You realize that these are things that can, of course, metals that can be collected, and they are useful in our teachings, in our classes, and all that. We have such. This one looks like a tambourine. What's the name given to this? Yeah, these are things that can be improvised. It can be done using our own hands and all that. We have such props like this. Of course, these ones are used during drama and all that. And And even the flutes, are you able to improvise the flute? Yes. Yeah, those are things that can be improvised.
This even as schools still work with the few available and the high cost of such equipment.
The challenges of the CBE is actually the cost, because for us to establish maybe a department for music in each and every institution, it will require a lot of resources.
Some subjects have stood out for embracing easy improvisation and creativity most effectively. These subjects naturally fit to hands-on learning, making improvisation easy. Mr. Kitur and many other teachers have adapted their roles, moving from content deliverers to explorers and facilitators. From the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, teachers have been guided to contextualize lessons to reflect local realities while maintaining the curriculum standards.
It becomes so easy for learners to pick the concepts that they are taught by their teachers, unlike subjects that are theorized by the teachers.
Agree to disagree, this approach is not a compromise. For most teachers, it is a strength where learners have developed creativity and problem-solving skills, not only to be used in examinations, but also to be used to solve real-world problems. Mashari Mbogwa, NTV.
Well, that story by Mashari Mbogwa takes us back to our conversation. And before I proceed with the Honorable Lilian Gogo, Thaddeus Ruga, and Emmanuel Manyasa, I cross over to Helen Aura, who is sitting with parents. Helen, these conversations are complementing each other. Parents following this side, and of course the panelists here listening to what the parents are saying. What is the response by the parents, especially on what has been discussed?
As a matter of fact, Ibrahim, we've been having such a heated conversation here behind the scenes, and everyone here has their own opinion. Some saying they're in support of the curriculum, others saying they're not in support of the curriculum, and rightfully so, they have their own reasons why. And if I may just throw it back to my panel, in Naivasha during the National Assembly retreat, Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah had mentioned that one of the reasons there's corruption within the new curriculum education sector is through uniforms, through lunch programs. There is even motivation fees. So maybe as a parent, we were talking about the issue of uniforms coming on board with this new transition. Has any of you experienced any challenges when it comes to matters surrounding the uniform fees? Is it a monopoly from where you stand?
Well, my experience would be rather, the fact that something costs money does not make it a challenge, because it is either it has a cost element or it is free. But that is in itself not a challenge, merely because some parents, but it need not be perceived as a monopoly, but for parents joining, when something is called uniform, or for students joining, when something is called uniform, then it needs to be uniform. That means the shade, the quality, the type of garment used need not just be a certain color. It needs to be uniform. And therefore schools, in seeking to control possibility of certain quality of materials fading within a short time, have taken it upon themselves to afford, to stock the schools with those uniforms for the first time entrants. That does not in itself should not be construed to mean corruption. But you see, when we are talking about the source, where this came from, it came from a politician. So you can understand when somebody wants to make a point, you say, oh, there is corruption in this, there's corruption in that, because you give politicians a chance to talk about education. Then the other item is lunch. I mean, for Nairobi, for example, when we perceive Nairobi issues, they are slightly different. We desire that all children feed in school, again for obvious reasons. During the period during the Kibaki time, the government cleared the canteens that were around schools, because people felt that there are people who are selling bread or cookies laced with substances. And in the best interest of the learner, we decide that, come on, whatsoever our children are consuming and we are not supervising, let the schools supervise. And so if you say let food be in school or be provided in school, it is not corruption. But once again, I mean, that's my experience and how I think. A school is a bureaucracy. And if you're talking about children, let the teachers acting as parents or supervisors to control some things.
Well, let me hand it over to Anne. You had mentioned that you had labeled your child's uniform, and then upon arriving at school, you were told the school has to label the uniform again. And then there was the issue of buying the uniform specifically from the school. How did that turn out?
For me, well, labeling, you label according to what you think, the names of your kid. Upon reaching school, the school insists they need to do the admission number, which you don't even have it before inception, Before the kid joins school, you don't have the admission number. So you're forced. And maybe my problem is not even the school labeling the uniform or buying the uniform. My problem is they make it affordable. Okay. It doesn't matter where these things are coming from whether we are supposed to buy them out there or wherever, making them affordable, because we always say there are people who cannot afford. The source is not the issue, it's the affordability. But there are some things also, like I tried to highlight to you, maybe like a cup and a spoon. Why should it become a big issue that if I bring this cup, you say, no, you have to buy it from school? And the same thing that I've carried is the same thing that is in school. I mean, a metal cup and a metal plate. They're all the same. I bring it and you're like, no, you have to pay this much for the same thing. I think somewhere things are not working the way they should. Because if it is the same thing, then it should be accepted. Or another thing, like when you take your kid to school, there's someone waiting a barber there. Already your kid has shaved your hair. And then you have to pay again, and he has to be bald. Looking for a way of making money out of us. That one I don't support.
Mr. Jasso, you're the Nairobi County Parents Association Chair. Have you had some of these complaints that you're hearing from this panel fronted to you? And also, what are some of the challenges that have been fronted to you by parents?
Thank you, Helen. Our office is just here in Nairobi, my own office. And normally wherever there are concerns in schools in Nairobi County, I normally get it. So I want to confirm for you here that I have not received any of such complaints from any parent or from any schools. So we will investigate, and when we establish the truth, we will be able to say. Now going to the key challenges of this transition. One of the key challenges is about placement of learners in school, whereby in some instances, learners who are not placed at all, or either placed in a lower cadre school, where learner is supposed to be in a C1 category school, learner is placed in C3 or C2, or learners are placed in a very far place, say like a learner in Nairobi placed in Lodwar, in a day school in Lodwar, or in a day school in Marsabit. Those are some of the, one of the key challenges. And we commend the ministry for the kind of intervention they did in addressing these issues, where they have given learners a window of a week or so to reapply, and then they were placed accordingly. Also, issues to do with the fees. Many of our parents live at the bottom of the pyramid. They are going through a lot. So leave alone school fees. Many of them don't even afford a single meal in a day.
It's good you've mentioned that, because recently President William Ruto mentioned that no school should turn away any student because of school fees. Yet, when you go to the schools actually question how will they function. So where the schools are left in limbo and the students are also left in limbo in this particular instance.
Thank you very much, Helen, for raising this. First of all, on behalf of all parents, I would like to take this opportunity to thank His Excellency the President, Honorable William Ruto, for this directive. This directive not only enhances the 100% transition, but also eases burden, financial burden on very many parents. Sisi kama wazazi tumepokea hiyo kwa shange na nderemo, and we thank His Excellency for that, because those are key challenges that our parents are facing. And to the parents, I want them to take this opportunity of presidential directive to ensure that every grade 10 learner be in school as the president directed, whether they have uniform or not, whether the fees is there or not. There are cases I had, even some cannot even afford the fare to take these learners to the school. They are so down, and we understand. And we thank those who came out to assist in terms of fares. Here, uniform and things like that don't add value to performances. What is important is education. Education is key to success.
If you say uniform doesn't add value to performance, then why is there even a strict adherence to students have to have particular uniforms for this
Let
school?
me tell you, Helen, the person giving this directive, Honorable Dr. William Samoei Ruto, is a learned, one of the most learned presidents in Africa. He knows what works in education and what doesn't work in education. That is one. Number two, the person advising you to take your learner to school, whether they have fees or uniform, is the government. This is the head of state. He has the powers to make sure that things are in normal. So the very first thing, the very most important, is for this learner to be in school. From there, the president will maybe provide fund to ensure that every learner, those ones who don't have uniform, will get, to ensure that other things are addressed. So, the problem we have, Helen, many of, we have a lot of, people out there who are not parents themselves. They're making a lot of complaint, or there will be a lot of congestion in the school and what have you. Yet, if you look at them, they are not even parents. They are not even in the system. They don't even know what happens in the education sector. So us as parents, we receive that news with a lot of appreciation. We thank the president, and we urge all our parents to make sure that these learners take the advantage of the presidential directive to be in the school, because the government knows the reason as to why it has given that direction, and the government has the capacity to ensure, to normalize everything within the school, including the infrastructure, including the fee issue. The government knows how to balance.
Speaking of the fee issue, and Paul, do you believe that this would be a seamless transition for most students if they do show up to the schools which they were called to? It will not be an issue to just admit a child without who is lacking school fees, even with the necessities. They will come as they are. Do you think this is possible?
Actually, what I think is that this one being the, being the first grade 10 in this transition, there must be the teething problems, and these teething problems, as we go by, they'll be ironed out. So, about the seamless transition, there has been a gap. There has been a confusion in between. Like, I can give an example, like in Nyanza area, those parents who are taking students in Nyanza area, when they were taking students there, you find that most parents were complaining that there are those hidden charges that were not even written in the newsletter. But in Western region, those parents who are taking children there, you find that everything that was written there, they adhere to that. There was no those hidden charges. So the teething problems must be there, and those ones will be ironed out as we go on.
All right. Delvin, let me come to you. Mr. Jasso had said that a lot of people who are talking about this issue are activists. As a parent who has 2 children in this curriculum, how involved are you in your child's education in terms of, do you know what is expected of you as a parent? So much so to now, when your daughter has gone to grade 10, do you understand what the pathways are even for your child?
Thank you, Helen. As a parent to 2 children in different phases of this system, for the first one who has just transitioned into grade 10, personally I can say that we were uncertain, we were anxious, even as we sat as she sat for KEPSEA, we were uncertain about the transition into senior school at quite an early stage in their lives. So we were quite afraid of their learning situation progressing on into other schools. So once the government stepped in and domiciled the junior school within the current public primary schools and even other schools, it gave us a sigh of relief. And then now, again, as they transition into senior school where they're more developed, more mature enough, I believe she's more capable of handling the challenges that come with joining a boarding school for the first time, going away from home for the first time. But now the challenge is that she's maturing, she's going deeper into CBE as a curriculum, and then the youngest is still in the exploratory phase of CBE. So he's still enjoying learning in grade 4, but we are still unsure whether the CBE will still be the same for him or it will narrow the gap that we have experienced with the one who is in senior school now. So what we are asking even the government is to ensure that those teething problems that the pioneers had, they should level the way, smoothen the transitions even for the youngest ones, the ones who are in grade 9. They won't have a difficult time the way we had a difficult time with selections of pathways, with even selections of schools and even subject combinations. Then they will be well equipped going into it because they know there's somebody ahead of them who has already passed through that progress. Yeah.
Just to add on that, much as we had several training programs, for parents, still there is need for continuous parental involvement and engagement in matters education. And because you understand that as many parents don't even understand what this new system entails. Like for instance, the parent of grade 10, when the grade KGCE result was out, the parent realized that the child scored EE in all the subjects. Then the first thing she did after receiving that on the phone, she called me, Chairman, oh my God, my son has failed drastically in KGCE. He got EE in every subject. Now what can I do? So you see, it took me time to explain to her that EE actually means exceeding expectation. This is an A student. This is a student who belongs to C1 category school. Yeah. Wow, you need to start celebrating. You see this kind of situation, eh? So we are in agreement with all the relevant stakeholders that there will be continuous parental engagement on matters education and training for the parents to ensure that they will get to learn and understand this system very well. Yes.
Okay. Just to throw it to you, Juma, because you're also a stakeholder in this. So do you believe the teachers received sufficient training when it comes to this transition? I ask because there are teachers who have reached out to us, some saying they've received students to junior secondary who they believe have not grasped the concept of what this new curriculum entails. Not necessarily from urban areas. This problem actually we're seeing it, or rather we're receiving certain reports even from mashinani areas.
Thank you. Before I answer that question, allow me to address just a small issue on the so-called 100% transition.
It's at 92 now.
Yes. Because you see, if you want learners to go to school or to transition at the 100% rate, either make it free or subsidize it. Give a policy statement, not a political statement. So when we say, let me not find anybody being turned away from school, it will be good for the parent. But what are they going to school to do when there is nothing for them to eat and there is nowhere for them to sleep, no uniform for them to wear? And so for the public, it looks good that, oh, the government has intervened and declared that no learner should be left at home. But the question of quality begs an answer in situations where political statements supersede and something as important as education. Now the question that you asked, which is whether or not there is adequate tutor preparation or teacher preparation, I feel that, okay, all teachers undergo the basic or the rigorous pedagogical preparation. Now, the problem is you are coming up with a new system and you are saying that all the teacher needs to do is just to go through a short course on how to implement the new curriculum. My idea is that is also a gamble. And Nairobi is good because there are several facilities. You can even learn from your neighbor. You can even learn from your neighbor's laptop. Take a case of the teacher who is in some remote area where electricity is a luxury, internet is therefore a luxury. That teacher, whatsoever he's going to give the learner cannot be of good quality. Such places suffer, and I believe that eventually the first lot of CBC is going to produce very unequal results. Very unequal results. And even more fundamental.
You are ruffling some feathers here.
Yeah, I know. But I wanted to say that, education, yes. The person whom I'm going to meet in the hospital need not be my son. Right. So if I make a comment about the quality of teacher training or the quality of doctor's training, then I'm talking about my own health rather than my child. Because education is everyone's consumer good. So if I'm uncomfortable with the way something is being done in our country, I'm uncomfortable with the way engineers are being produced in our country, the way doctors are being prepared in our country. So it should be open, even for those who are not parents, to comment about it. Yeah. That is what I think, because it is ensuring that the future is taken care of, rather than my own child is taken care of.
All right. Unfortunately, this conversation has to come to an end because of time is not on our side. I'll give each and every one of you 30 seconds at least, just to give your closing remarks. I'll start with you, Paul.
It was a very good platform and engaging ourselves about matters education. I appreciate this, and I know that the government of the day is doing whatever it has to do so that it makes this thing work.
For you, Delvin, I saw you were trying to raise your mic.
Thank you, Helen. Now, I want to really appreciate the government of Kenya because as pioneer parents, we were concerned, we were anxious, but we are hopeful. We are not giving up. We are sure the government has nice things in store. Even the curriculum developers are constantly reviewing the content in the education curriculum as it is, to ensure that we have a smooth transition into even the job market. So what I'll call upon is to just ask the government to ensure that we have continuous retraining of all stakeholders. The parents need a continuous retraining of what CBE entails, the various pathways, the school selection, and even the various subject combinations. So in this case, we will be able to have parents who are enlightened, teachers who are enlightened, and even other stakeholders. Even mama mboga pale kwa kijiji anaweza ambia mwenzake ati hivi ndio venye CBE nimesikia inaendelea. So continuous information is what we need. Thank you.
Jasso?
Yes, thank you very much, Helen, for this opportunity. We look forward to many more of such opportunities for us to engage on education matters in our country. We thank you for that. As Parent Association, we welcome all like-minded stakeholders to join with us, to join hand with us, so that we will be able to train as many parents as possible across the country for them to actually understand clearly what exactly the CBE entails. So finally, as I thank His Excellency President Ruto for the directive, I'm appealing to all parents to take advantage of presidential directive, to take all grade 10 learners, those who have completed KGCSE exam last year, grade 10 learners, to take them to school as per the presidential directive. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen, for this platform. At least we are able to air our views in that affect us academically, and even in the providing things that are efficient in helping our children to continue with their learning. One thing I believe CBC we should take it positive because this is the curriculum that we have. And as much as we're saying, there are places where they are marginalized, they cannot afford all the requirements. We are going to ask the government to go and make sure they make it affordable, whatever it is needed for the learners. Things like the internet, because in most cases, the CBC, we are normally told we refer. We're supposed to refer to our internet, the Google research. So such things should be provided, even the tablets that we were promised some years back. Right now, our children, this is the time that our children need them.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Juma?
Yeah, finally, I think it is a new system. Unfortunately, it has been hurriedly implemented. For whatsoever reasons, we are going to reap the results. My idea of it is that we try as much as possible to tailor-make it to meet the needs of the centuries that we are facing. That includes even contemplating borrowing significantly from the old system. Thank you.
All right. Well, Ibrahim, there you've had it from parents here who are in support of the system and others who are still not convinced that this new competency-based education curriculum is good enough for the future of learners in this country. But while we're here, those who are in support and those who have actually children in this new curriculum said, you know what, let's push forward. Let's see where this curriculum will take our children as long as there's clarity and stability, because the foundation for children is important. Back to you, studio.
Well, thank you very much, Helen Aura, with that discussion with the parents. And we want to get into more substantive issues, including the pathways within the competency-based education and whether we are equipped for it. And that we'll be doing with our panelists here, Thaddeus Ruga, Lilian Gogo, and Emmanuel Manyasa. But before we do that, I want to quickly read some comments because we asked you to engage us on our social handles at NTV Kenya across all platforms. And you seem to be very angry with Mheshimiwa Lilian Gogo and what she said. This is what you're saying in response to the fact that she said that the challenge we have is that, rather, that there is no crisis in the education sector. These are your comments. Jackson Mangoribo says, I'll read it verbatim. Tell her students are not mandazi, awaiting the cooking oil to boil. They are continuously in progress. Let them plan well day and night because time is not waiting for them. Mwalimu Ochwangi Dennis says, ask me. I am a senior school teacher, and as such, I have first-hand information. We have not started attending to these learners. Week 5 is coming to an end tomorrow. And perhaps the other comment, allow me to read this. We thought the problems, this is Joseph Ngamau Gikandi, in his own words says, we thought the problems are only with Ruto, but PTU, sit down with teachers and explain to them how to accommodate students without uniforms and school fees. Now, this is a concern that teachers are having, even before we get into the pathways and how equipped we are. We've seen schools, and I'll give you 30 seconds to respond to this, all of you. After the statement was made that let all learners go to school, even without uniform, even without school fees, we have had principals say, now we have the learners here. What do we do next? What do we feed them with? We've seen a principal on a story done by NTV who says, a father brought their child to school, then pretended to be making a call outside and vanished. Left the principal with the child because there is a presidential political statement that says, take all learners to school. How do you respond to this? Let me start with you, Manyasa. Then we will wind up with Mheshimiwa Lilian. Ruga, you'll come in right after Manyasa.
Very quickly, I think the directive is good. I think that it needs to be followed by a circular. If there's no circular, that directive is hot air. Because the teacher is a bureaucrat, they will respond to a memo from Jogo that says, this is the memo. And in that memo, it will tell them, so for these learners who don't have uniform, this is how you treat them. For these learners who have come without paying a single cent, this is how you treat them. I think that is important. I think that it is also important for us to be very honest as a country, so that the government comes out and says, this is the full cost of education. This is how much the government can put in. This is the deficit. This deficit will come from these bursaries. Can we consolidate them and fill this deficit? If they don't fill, this is what remains for the parent to be able to put in. And can we find a way of making sure that these bursaries actually support the parents who cannot afford?
All right.
On the issue of uniform, and I've had someone pontificate here about how it should be uniform, uniform, uniform. If that strictness was followed, I would not be sitting here.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thaddeus.
Thank you. I have the opinion that the political statement from the president is a pointer to policy development. The political class now acknowledges that there's a problem and children need to go to schools. But if they go to schools, there are stumbling blocks. Number one is the uniform. Then there's the issue of food. Now the question is, what does the government need to do with the uniform? In Uganda, there are no school uniforms. So children go to school and the clothing that cost over 20,000, some of these schools are charging 28,000 for uniform, some 30,000. Uniform alone. So if uniform is stopping Kenyans from going to school, why can't they go to school? When they come to the university where we are, nobody asks them for uniform, but they are still students. So the question is, should clothes stop us from going to school, like it almost did with him?
Sure.
And that's a policy question that needs to be asked and answered by the political class.
Mheshimiwa Lilian, even as you respond to this, I want us for a moment to think about parents who do not have a source of income. Let's think about parents from far-fetched parts of this country where, say, we've seen here a story from Viwa constituency. You've seen that's a constituency neighboring yours. The state in which learners are learning. How do we ensure equity with the directive that we had from the president and be sure that we are offering these learners quality education?
Allow me to say that governance issues are leadership issues. And all people in all echelons of leadership must take responsibility for the positions that they hold. I must say that from parenting also, we cannot blame responsible parenting on government. You just gave a very good example. The president has said that all learners should report to school. Then a parent takes their child, they go, take the child to school, the learner to school, they appear like they're doing a phone call, then they go away. And this learner has been in, the learner has been in school for about 9 years. It costs a normal jogo goes for about 1,300, 1,500. If you were to have only 2, you would be having 3,000. But I have, as a parent, I'm just relying on government to do everything. I don't want to participate at all in the education of my child. And the CBC system is structured such that there is participatory learning to the extent that even parental and guardian involvement is critical, so that you are able to monitor the learning the learning process of the child. And as they continue acquiring the skills, it can be monitored from home and at school. This is what I want to say. It is very, very, very important that this discussion continues. Even the teacher who is saying that I'm the one at the teaching point, this is the information that we require. How do we improve the system? For, good management involves continuous improvement.
True.
Continuous improvement. How do we improve? Because I remember even when 844 came, it was not welcome. It was a big problem transitioning from the 7.3 something?
7.423.
Yeah. It was a big problem when 844 came. Was among the first persons who went through the 844 system.
All right.
All these things in CBC, they were in 844.
All right.
And as 844 continued, so many things were dropped.
I want us.
So this is what I want to say. If there are issues with our education system, let us give it a try, let us improve, and let us continue as a country to be positive about our systems. And finally, as I add on to this, there was recently an invocation that the admission point to university is going to be reviewed from C+ to something else. I don't know if that has already been communicated. And I find that so unfair to parents. I find that so unfair to learners. Let these things not be after effects.
All right.
Let them not, it is disturbing the learners, it is disturbing the parents who had known that if I don't get B-, this is my capacity is to get a C+, I'll still go to the university. And then after getting your C+, then you're told, we have changed.
All right,
These are the things we should address in the education system in Kenya. Yeah, things that just affect learners and stress learners and their parents.
Part of these things that affect learners also include the pathways and how equipped we are. We are running out of time, so I'll give you 30 seconds, all of you, to respond to this. Are we well equipped for the pathways that we have? We're speaking about STEM, we're speaking about social sciences, we're speaking about arts and sports sciences. C1 schools offering all the three. We are seeing other schools, not, of course, based on resources and how well equipped they are, offering different things. Last week in Naivasha, members of parliament were speaking about teacher distribution, even teachers who could offer this. So how equipped are we now in reality? Let's speak about the software to prepare our learners for the future. 30 seconds each. I start with you, Manyasa.
For the new subjects, learning areas that we introduced, we are not ready. We have not trained music teachers for a long time. We have not trained art and design teachers for a long time. We have not trained teachers for things like power mechanics and others for a very long time. So they're not there. Let us not pretend. Two, many of the cluster C4 schools, cluster 4 schools, when you go around, they don't have labs, they don't have science teachers. So taking there a child, they have actually been producing E's and D's in math, chemistry, physics, biology. If you take there a young child to go and study STEM, you have put them in a dark tunnel to nowhere. They are not ready for that kind of pathway.
Okay. Lilian Gogo?
We may not be fully equipped to handle the education system, but we are working towards probably mitigating the areas which we have shortages. And the government, I think, is aiming to have probably stadia in all the counties and better still in all the sub-counties. And this would help in mitigating shortages in probably those who want to pick up sports as a career, and those who want to do arts. And I think we should give it a chance, and we should continue training.
All right.
It is a process.
All right, we should continue training. It is a process. And finally, Thaddeus Ruga.
I would want us to look at this issue differently. We have 3 pathways. One of them is called social sciences. In the university, if you ask me, there are certain courses in the social sciences that don't attract students today. What will happen to schools that have been given social sciences and there are no likely jobs in the future?
Okay.
What will happen to this?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And that is a perfect place to... You want to respond to that?
I have big problems with reducing education to labor production. Education is not labor production.
All right. Education is not labor production. But that is a discussion we've been having here on the state of education. Education in or under test that we've been having here with Dr. Thaddeus Ruga, an educationist from Kenyatta University, senior lecturer. Of course, we've also had Mheshimiwa Lilian Gogo, doctor as well, Member of Parliament, Rangwe constituency, and Emmanuel Manyasa, the Executive Director, Usawa Agenda. This is something we will be having every other week. We'll be picking an issue, discussing it and dissecting it even with stakeholders and other players within the sector. For now, my name is Ibrahim Karanja. Thank you very much for watching this. I take you back to Zainab Ismail for the next part of this bulletin.